Just ahead on CTV News, Governor Moore shares plans to grow Maryland's economy. Plus,
here at Bowie State, Healthy Climate Maryland has just launched today to help the state go green. I'm Bryce Parker. We'll have more coming up on CTV News.
And Simon Buggs has our Friday sports page. Those stories and more on CTV News, starting now.
CTV News for December 13th, I'm Mariah Jalad.
And I'm Michaela Newton. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, Governor Wes Moore addressed the Maryland Association of Counties Winter Conference last night, outlining bold actions to boost the state's economy and navigate a fiscal deficit. Now, Moore announced a sweeping executive order to cut red tape for businesses in key sectors like life sciences, IT, and aerospace. He also proposed an education bill to strengthen teacher recruitment by expanding the hiring pipeline and delaying collaborative time rules. Now, a housing bill to increase supply and make Maryland more attractive for families is also on the table.
Maryland and every state in the nation was benefiting from the billions of dollars of federal money that got us through the COVID-19 pandemic. But let's be clear. Billions of dollars from the federal government is not a structural surplus, it is a sugar high. Because that money that came in from the federal government was not fixing our structural deficits. It was masking the problems. And over the last 2 years, our administration has made targeted cuts and responsible investments to help to narrow the budget gap. We've prioritized government efficiency and data, where for 2 years in a row, we've actually decreased the size of state government, working to spend smarter to get the results that matter.
And Moore also called for tough choices in the upcoming budget, urging, quote, growth, not cuts or tax hikes, to secure Maryland's future.
Well, liquor store owners are concerned about a proposal to lift the ban on alcohol sales in grocery stores. Governor Wes Moore voiced his support for a bill in the upcoming General Assembly session. Maryland is one of a few states that only allows liquor to be sold in licensed shops. Store owners say it could hurt their business and divert profits away from the state. Shilpa Ben and Maniskumar Patel own Village Pump Liquors in College Park. They say their main concern is cheaper and more lenient licensing.
Right now we spending a whole lot of money for this license, right? So we have to pay all bills. If they give whole Maryland this license to any liquor store or any convenience store or any gas station, then how we survive to make money to pay off a bill, employee paycheck and everything?
We want the same question. That's why we don't want any more license in PG County or whole Maryland for whatever the government say.
Whatever we're doing business right now, after they give license for whole Maryland, we have to get in half business, so we don't need that. And they have to decide that before.
A bill proposing to lift the ban was killed in the House of Delegates last year.
And University of Maryland's housing and dining fees could rise for fall 2025 students. That is, if the Board of Regents and Student Fee Review Committee approve it. The Residence Hall Association passed the proposal last week, and dining fees are set to rise almost 10% and housing by 4%. UMD resident Life Director Dennis Passarella George says most of the housing fees will go to rising worker wages. Now, Dining Services Director says the rise in fees are in part to level food expenses from inflation if approved. Higher fees will continue into spring of 2026.
On Thursday, President Joe Biden announced the commutation of 1,500 Americans' prison sentences and granted more than 36 pardons, including one Prince Georgian. He is 58-year-old Andrew Lawrence Byrd of Clinton. When he was 23, he pled guilty to nonviolent offenses. He says he rode as the passenger in a stolen car. He served a year in prison, but after that, his felony conviction made the next 25 years a challenge. Today, Byrd works as an equipment operator, is active in his church community, and contributes to the church's coat drive and food pantry.
And listen to this. Mysterious drone sightings are sparking concern across the country. In Maryland and New Jersey, residents have reported clusters of unidentified drones flying at night, sometimes as large as cars. The unusual activity began in mid-November and has been spotted in at least 13 New Jersey counties. Recently, several drones were captured on video soaring over Bowie. Local officials are investigating these puzzling sightings, but the origin and purpose of these drones remain a mystery.
And some of Maryland's nursing homes haven't had their annual inspections since 2020, state health officials say. There's 222 licensed homes in the state, and less than 50 of those were inspected in 2024. Officials say it could take years to catch up with all the inspections, on top of thousands of complaints on conditions in nursing homes. The number of those is nearly 6,000. And the Maryland Equitable Justice Collaborative is recommending reform to address the mass incarceration of Black people in the state. Maryland has the nation's highest percentage of Black people in its prisons compared to the general population. That's why the group approved recommendations this week for reforms to criminal law and sentencing, law enforcement policies and practices, and more. The group is also promoting successful re-entry and preventing reincarceration.
Well, a former U.S. Department of Defense official is facing prison time after being convicted for his involvement in dogfighting. In a Baltimore courtroom Thursday, 64-year-old Frederick Moorfield Jr. was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 6 months of home detention. Moorfield, who pled guilty to 2 counts of dogfighting back in September, now faces the consequences of his actions after a federal judge handed down the sentence. And nearly 500 resident physicians and fellows at George Washington University plan to strike Tuesday, accusing the university of unfair labor practices and federal labor law violations. The walkout will disrupt patient care at GWU Hospital and affiliated facilities, including Anne Arundel Medical Center, Holy Cross Hospital, and Sinai Hospital in Maryland. Now, after 15 months of failed negotiations, doctors say they're overworked, underpaid, and facing a mental health crisis. Some regularly work 80-hour weeks for as little as $15 an hour.
GW leadership is failing us. They are refusing to agree to our basic but urgent demands for a living wage and improved mental health benefits. So we have tried everything. We have negotiated, we have come to every single session on time when management just simply doesn't. And quite frankly, they've left us no choice. This is a decision we don't make lightly because we do recognize how serious striking is, especially in healthcare. But at this point, we have authorized a strike because the stakes are too high not to. We cannot continue with the status quo with residents, physicians being unable to afford to live in DC, where we care for patients.
And in a statement to CTV, George Washington University said it acknowledges key issues like pay, benefits, and mental health support raised by resident physicians. The next bargaining session is set for Monday, just 1 day before the strike. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Michaela Newton.
And I'm Mariah Jalad. Still to come, health and environmental officials are teaming up for better health.
Plus, a local nonprofit gears up to celebrate Kwanzaa. We'll have those stories and more up next.
This high school gym used to be packed most nights. Not anymore. Do you know why? Because bad behavior by fans, especially adults, has caused a shortage of game officials across the country. You see, without officials, we can't have sports. Don't let this become reality. It's time for a change. Let's bench bad behavior for good.
A group of health organizations is collaborating to make Maryland a greener, healthier state. CTV's Bryce Parker is in Bowie for the launch of Healthy Climate Maryland.
We need to be better stewards of our environment because it takes care of us. Our environment can heal itself if we allow it the moment to do it.
The launch of Healthy Climate Maryland was held today at Bowie State University in an effort to improve the environment and well-being of all Marylanders.
There's a growing movement of health professionals who are interested in taking action on climate change. And so we hope to be a home for those people.
Witherspoon, who served as today's keynote speaker, was called in to share how climate change makes her job of preventing childhood illnesses even harder.
When you look at the negative health outcomes of children, childhood asthma really isn't getting better. Childhood cancers every year go up. That's not genetics, so you have to look at what is the cause. And then when you throw climate change on top of that, it just exacerbates everything.
And by reversing the damage done by climate change, it's Healthy Climate Maryland's hope that it could directly impact our children's quality of life.
If we can help kids start out with a healthier start in life, they don't have to work as hard. They can just be students. They can just be regular children and not have to worry about treating illness.
With the Maryland legislative session starting in less than 30 days, there are two initiatives that Healthy Climate Maryland is hoping to pass when the delegation begins to meet on January 8th.
As Healthy Climate Maryland, members voted for two legislative priorities. The first is the Transportation and Climate Alignment Act, and the other one is about climate revenue. We know that the state is facing a very dire budget shortfall, and so we need to create new sources of revenue that we can invest in the state's climate solutions.
Transportation is the #1 leader in emissions in this state, and with the proposal of two climate revenue bills, Rear describes this as the polluter pay model.
The first puts a fee on coal being transported through the state of Maryland to invest in communities affected by air pollution, and then the other charges the largest polluters that we know emitted a lot of fossil fuels and caused the resulting climate change. And that's what we hope to launch with Healthy Climate Maryland, is that home for people looking to do collective action and collective advocacy, particularly at the state level.
In Bowie, I'm Bryce Parker, CTV News.
Thank you, Bryce. And to learn more about this coalition, you can visit healthyclimatemaryland.org.
Well, Maryland's revenues are expected to come in slightly higher than anticipated, but still fall short of closing a multi-billion-dollar budget gap, forcing tough decisions ahead, fiscal officers said Thursday. Adding to the uncertainty is the potential impact of the incoming Trump administration on the federal workforce, a key driver of state revenues. The comptroller's office expressed optimism about the state's economy, but cautioned that Maryland is navigating a, quote, sea of uncertainty as budget negotiations loom. And the state of Maryland will bring in billions of dollars in taxes, but it won't help with reducing the state's deficit. According to reports, the state is expected to collect $25 billion in taxes and other revenue in fiscal year 2025. This comes at a time where the state is dealing with a multi-billion-dollar budget deficit. Governor Wes Moore will have to present a budget proposal by January 15th.
Struggling to give a good gift this holiday season? Well, you're not alone. The National Retail Federation says gift givers will spend more than $900 billion, but 20% of gifts will be returned. Neuroscientist turned journalist Richard Sima says giving sentimental gifts or an item you use can strengthen a bond with the gift recipient. He also says expensive gifts are not always better and to always get what the recipient wants. Gift giving is the best part of the season, so stop stressing out. Another tip from Sima.
A major e-commerce company is planning to donate some big bucks to help pay for the upcoming inauguration. According to reports, Amazon is expected to donate $1 million to President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration fund. Amazon will also stream Trump's inauguration through its streaming platform called Prime Video. Now, Meta, the tech company, will also donate $1 million to the inauguration fund.
Get ready to celebrate community and culture. Joe's Movement Emporium is hosting Umoja, a Kwanzaa experience for families, this Sunday. Expect live performances, hands-on craft workshops, demo classes, and cultural cuisine, all designed to bring the spirit of Kwanzaa's first principle, Umoja, or unity, to life.
What you'll find at this celebration is community, all right? This is an immersive experiences. There will be performances. There'll be workshops. There's going to be a drumming workshop. There's going to be a dance workshop. And all of these things are in celebration of Black culture, okay? This is going to be from 1 to 4 p.m. There'll also be body adornment. So you'll have face painting. We have henna. And then we are finishing it off with an amazing diasporic food tasting. So you'll be able to get soul food. You'll be able to experience some Caribbean food. So we're really trying to make this a well-rounded experience for the community.
You can join the fun and connect with community this holiday season. For more details, visit joesmovement.org.
And beloved American poet Nikki Giovanni died this week at the age of 81 from complications of lung cancer. Giovanni was more than a poet. She was also a civil rights activist, author, and longtime professor at Virginia Tech University. She published her first poetry collection called Black Feeling, Black Talk back in 1968. This piece of work cemented her as a leader in the Black arts movement. Sister Joy, inaugural poet laureate for Prince George's County, met Giovanni back in 2014. She calls the late poet at laureate a force that spoke the truth with her words.
She recognized that she had work to do, and she was not one to be fluff or, in any way puffed up by the accolades that came her way. She recognized that her work spoke for itself. And she was about the work. She was about the people. And whenever she spoke, you knew that there was going to be education, there was going to be empowerment, there was going to be, and on occasion, entertainment, because she captured the audience in a way that you had to hear what she said.
Sister Joy says she's working on a piece of poetry honoring the late poet. Giovanni passed away in her home in Virginia, surrounded by family and friends.
And still to come on CTV News, a recent cybersecurity breach is exposing millions of Americans.
Our cybersecurity analyst, Dr. Caleb Charles, is back to discuss how this happened when we return.
She recognized that she had work to do, and she was not one to be fluff or, in any way puffed up by the.
Teachers are dynamic leaders, shaping a new generation, innovating how they teach to prepare students for our fast-changing world. Achieving this takes skill and expertise. They're tireless explorers, creatively discovering a universe of solutions, telling stories, experimenting, inspiring, mentoring, connecting cultures, and connecting with each other, leading by example. Experience the unique joy of helping students thrive. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives. Are you ready? Explore teaching at teach.org.
Welcome back. In a severe breach of cybersecurity, a Chinese hacking group known as Salt Typhoon infiltrated the networks of 8 U.S. telecom companies, accessing call and text records from countless Americans. Now, this campaign has been deemed the most extensive telecom hack in U.S. history.
The primary goal appears to be espionage, with hackers targeting communications to identify individuals for further surveillance. Joining us in studio today to talk more about the breach is cybersecurity expert and educator Dr. Caleb Charles. Thanks so much for being here again.
Thank you.
So how did this happen? I mean, do we know the details exactly how they made this hack?
The information is still being gathered. What we identified, one of the main issues is legacy equipment. A lot of the telecom are using equipment that are end of life. You're unable to update, and that's one of the key things that we talk about. Make sure that your software stays up to date. And many of these network equipment that they have are not up to date. So they were able to breach through using those outdated equipment.
Now, it seems like these hacks are kind of happening a lot more often these days. Why do you think that U.S. companies are struggling to remove these hackers from their system?
Yeah, so one of the main issues is that we don't understand how deep this situation is. And to be able to flush all of these hackers out of the system is going to require replacing equipment as well as changing equipment. And to do so, they're afraid that there might be outages to the phone system, which will cause some bottom line service level agreements. So they're taking a slow approach and a more methodical approach to try to get these hackers out of their systems.
Is this hack particularly worse than other ones we've heard about?
Yeah, so initially it was deemed as the worst telecommunications hack. And as recently as yesterday, it has upgraded to the worst hack overall, including one of the ones that we talked about earlier this year as it related to the background check. So the information that has been collected, phone records, texts, metadata from high-level officials, and what can be done with that in the future is very concerning to many individuals right now.
Now, what are some signs that you can tell that hackers have access to other data other than call logs? Yeah, so phishing, having that intelligence information, they might be able to provide some targeted phishing. So again, what many cybersecurity experts are saying is to make sure you check your records, check your phone records, to make sure that nothing has been changed. But basically, a lot of the information that they're collecting, they're able to kind of create very sophisticated and targeted phishing attacks that might actually get you to be tricked.
And do we know anything about who this group is?
Well, it's a state-sponsored Chinese government, very well funded, very well educated, and this is something that they've been doing for a very long time. Many security experts have spoken with governments as well as the U.S. telecoms, letting them know these particular threats, these particular risks due to outdated equipment. And unfortunately, our telecom is not the only thing that's in risk. Our critical infrastructure, such as our water, our grid, and electricity, are also at risk, just like the telecom environment.
Now, what are some takeaways that individuals and companies should know about, being hacked, or what should they do in the future to prevent something like this from happening? Right.
So one of the key recommendations, as the hackers are still in the system and they're able to record and collect information, if you're using Apple-to-Apple text messaging and telephone calls, that's encrypted and is protected. If you're using Android to Android, that's also protected. But if you're using different networks from Apple to Android, that information is not protected. So the recommendation is to use a third-party app like Signal or WhatsApp that offers end-to-end encryption. And this way, there's no metadata or information that can be collected and used against you in the future.
Mm-hmm. And what might be a sign that your information is involved in this hack? I mean, do normal people need to be concerned, or are they just looking for these high-level officials?
Well, I mean, I think normal people always need to be concerned. For example, text messaging is how we communicate more so than telephone calls. And if you have some personal information that you're sharing with someone, or something went wrong, and 5-6 years later you're in a high-level position, that information may be able to come out again. So the main concern is not the fact that the information has been collected, is that it's being collected and stored in an unauthorized manner that can't be used against you. So, it may not be an issue that you need to worry about today, but it might be an issue that you need to worry about tomorrow, or even the person that you're communicating with. It might affect them. So, even though you don't feel that it is a situation, later on it might be a situation of concern.
All right, Dr. Charles, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And still ahead on CTV News, Simon Buggs is here with our Friday Sports Feed.
And he's taking us into the world of football. When we come back, stay tuned.
I wonder if you know that I want the best for you. I know you're going through a lot. I wonder if you know that the big homie needs help too. That you can't just rebound from everything. I know you've been grinding.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
But how long will you fight solo? I wonder if you know that we can get help. I wonder why we waited so long. I'm not wondering anymore. Love, you're mine. Let's see how far we can go.
The power of the knock is food. Your stew's delicious. I'm 88 years old, and I was with the Ice Capades when I was young. Now, being as old as I am, I lose balance. I don't like ending up this way, but what am I going to do? I got Meals on Wheels for the 5 years that I've been here. It's nice to know they come, and if you feel like talking, you can talk to them. I could talk for forever. They're totally a blessing.
Hey everyone, it's time for your Friday sports page. Fans will be pouring into Northwest Stadium tomorrow as America's game will be taking place between the Army and Navy football teams. This will be the 125th meeting between the two squads, and coaches and players from both teams are just as excited as ever to take the field against their opponents. Now, in the end, only one team can take home the Commander-in-Chief trophy, and some Navy players in Daba Fofana and Colin Ramos gave their thoughts on what they need to see from their team on Saturday to come out on top in the big game.
First of all, our attention to detail. You know, this game always comes down to one or two plays, so just fixating on those details, ball security, obviously, and just absolute grit. I mean, we got to want it more than them, and you know, playing with all of our heart and playing for the love of each other. That's what I want to see.
It's just going to come down to who's more physical and who executes better. So we have to have extreme detail in everything we do and just be physical.
Kickoff is at 3 o'clock. Make sure y'all tune in. Meanwhile, the Commanders will be returning to action this weekend as they will take the field to try and get their 9th win of the season against the New Orleans Saints. And with the regular season winding down, every game is crucial to Washington as they look to book a trip to the postseason. Quarterback Jaden Daniels spoke yesterday and addressed the upcoming matchup.
It's going to be fun. I played football down the road, so I went to a couple of the games. I was blessed to go to a couple of the games, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good challenge. They're a good team. Superdome gets pretty loud, you know, and they're rolling. So we'll go out there. We'll see what we can do and compete against them.
Kickoff is at 1 o'clock. And also great news, Commanders fans, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore will be making his debut on Sunday. The 4-time Pro Bowler was acquired by Washington in a trade from the Saints last month, but had been sidelined up until now due to a hamstring injury. And another local football team in the Baltimore Ravens will also suit up this weekend. The Purple and Black will be on the road at MetLife Stadium taking on the New York Giants. Kickoff is at 1 o'clock also. Baltimore is currently in second place in the AFC North at 8-5. Now to the world of college football. Ty Felton absolutely had a season to remember in College Park. And the 21-year-old just keeps on making headlines as he was named an AFCA second-team All-American. This past year for the Terps, Felton led the Big Ten in receptions with 96 as well as receiving yards with 1,124. The Virginia native was also top 5 in the Big Ten in touchdowns with 9. Felton was also named a Biletnikoff Award semifinalist also. With this accolade, he is Maryland's first All-American since linebacker Trey Watson back in 2018. Good work, Ty. And finally, former Terps quarterback Billy Edwards Jr. has decided to enter the transfer portal. In his first season as a starting signal caller, the redshirt junior played well for the Terps to open the season as he started at 3-2. But over the next 6 games, Edwards struggled, leading Maryland to a 1-5 record and threw four touchdowns and 7 picks. Edwards finished the 2024 season throwing for 2,881 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. And that wraps up your Friday sports page.
All right, thank you so much, Simon.
No problem.
Now let's get a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies with a low of 26. Tomorrow, mostly sunny with a high of 40.
And for the next 2 days, you might want to bring out your umbrellas. Rain will be headed your way with a high of 41 on Sunday and a high of 54 on Monday. And now for our community calendar. If you love to make cookies for Santa this holiday season, Prince George's Parks and Rec Disability Services has the event for you.
Celebrating their 50th anniversary, the department is hosting a creative cookies event for county residents to show off their cookie decorating skills. The event is tonight from 7 to 9 p.m. at Lake Arbor Community Center. And that wraps up CTV News for now. Thank you so much for joining us.
We'll see you again on Monday.
Good night, everybody, and go Commanders.